Hey kiddos, here's looking at sheet 8.1 where you were asked to kind of add some detail to this drawing of the water cycle, right? So let's go through what question 2 asked you to do in activity 8. The first thing it wanted you to do was identify places that water can be found. So it said, okay, well, water can be found in the atmosphere. So that would be easy to show water in the atmosphere. There's water on land like this lake. Okay, that's cool. There's also water in organisms like this guy's here, right? Yeah, like they're in trees. They're also in the animals, so you could draw an arrow there. You could draw there's water in those organisms there. That's cool. There's water in the ocean, of course, so that's an easy one to write. There's water in the ground, right? That's an easy one to write. So these are just the idea of where you're going to find water. You can also find water in precipitation. So if you have 6 places on your drawing where water can be found, then give yourself that point. Way to go. Now the next thing it wants you to do is show at least 6 arrows showing the movement of water. So I guess one arrow would be, right, precipitation falling. That's easy. We'll put one there and we'll put one there. Why not? But also we could draw that like the snow is going to melt and go downhill because of gravity. That's nice. And it's also going to go down this way, down the river, eventually into the ocean, right? There's some nice arrows showing that. Now that's all showing gravity pulling water down, but does water ever go up? Sure, but not because of gravity. Gravity only goes one direction. But when the sun's energy hits this per se, it's going to turn to water vapor and go up. In fact, that'll happen out of the trees even. That's called transpiration, right? It'll happen out of the ocean, right? So that's forms of evaporation, right? And that's where the sun's energy is. Remember, the sun is adding energy to our process there. And then it said, okay, it wants to show some state changes. We want to see condensation. Okay, so you can talk about atmosphere, and as it goes here, that's going to be condensation as water turns into a cloud. That's easy. Now, is precipitation a state change? No. It's already turned into water. Then it just falls. That's precipitation, right? But it does show evaporation. Sure. And of course, if it's cold enough when it condenses, it's going to freeze, right? This is frozen snow showing down here. So we could show freezing in this area here somehow. I'm going to draw an arrow to help me. Right? And then, of course, we have melting happening here as it goes down to the land. Or to the lake, I should say. So something like that. So if you did all of those things, give yourself another point. So far we have 1 point for labeling where water is. We have another point with 6 arrows, if you have 6 arrows showing the movement of water. And so that last point was for showing condensation, evaporation, freezing, melting. Cool. And then it wants, for the part D, it wants places where the sun's energy and the force of gravity help drive the water cycle. I really hope that's clear to you. Those are the 2 forces that make this whole thing happen. Without sunlight, without gravity, the water cycle does not work. So where's one thing on here that's driven by sunlight? Well, melting, that's a sun thing. Anytime you're adding energy, that's going to happen from sunlight, right? So melting is one. Another place where we're adding energy would be evaporation, right? So that's another place where the sun might be helping us, right? So as long as you have one place for the sun, that's great, but we need one for gravity. Well, that's pretty easy. Gravity is any arrows that really are going downhill, right? So even the water going down from the lake to the ocean, that's a gravity thing. Precipitation, I'm gonna put it in parentheses so I know what I'm talking about. Water going from the cloud down back to the earth, back to the ocean, that's a gravity thing, right? So that's another point. If you have at least one thing for where sun's involved and one thing for where gravity is involved. Again, gravity only goes down, right? Gravity never goes up. So you're going to score yourself out of 4 points for having all of those things. Now, one thing I want to add to this, and this was not required of you though, is to show where humans might have an influence here, right? A big one is these cows, right? I know they're natural little cows, but they belong to people, and they're there because we're raising cattle and all that kind of stuff. So the runoff from those cows is going to be a contaminant, right? And so I'm going to write human impact on there. And maybe over here we have a farm, right? And we have, let's draw a barn. Kids, I'm not an artist. Please don't tell Mr. Culver on me. This is bad. But that's our farm, so I'm going to show some fertilizer. And that's going to run downhill in our ocean as well. So that is also human impact. All right, going into our oceans. So this is the water cycle. This is the same water cycle you talked about when you were in 4th grade, right? But obviously now we're picking up a few more things about it, namely the roles that the sun plays, the role that gravity plays, and then obviously the role that humans play in sometimes messing this up. I hope that's good on you. You're going to be asked to do something like this on one of your first assessments. So if you need to practice, you can certainly update your model to look like this. Have a great day.